My name is Soren, and I grew up in a quiet town surrounded by hills and cold air. The streets were small and clean. The houses were old, but they felt warm. People knew each other. People trusted each other. Life was simple, and time moved slowly there. When I was 18, I started working in a small clock shop at the end of a narrow street. The shop was owned by an old man named Alaric Voss. He was not a loud man. He did not smile often, but his eyes were calm and his hands were steady. Very steady. The first time I walked into his shop, I heard it. Tick, tick, tick. So many clocks. Big clocks, small clocks, old clocks, new clocks. The sound filled the air. It was soft, but it was everywhere. I remember feeling strange. I felt curious. I felt excited. Alaric looked at me and said, "If you want to learn, you must listen." I did not understand his words. Not really, but I nodded. I wanted to learn fast. I wanted to be good. I wanted to show people I had skill. I had always been like that. Fast, quick, always moving. I did not like waiting. Waiting made me feel uncomfortable. Waiting made me feel weak. The first few weeks were simple. I cleaned the shop. I carried tools. I watched Alaric work. He moved slowly, very slowly. Sometimes I felt bored. Sometimes I looked at the door and wanted to leave, but I stayed. One day, he gave me a small clock to fix. It was old and dusty. The glass was broken. The hands did not move. He placed it in front of me and said, "Take your time." I nodded again, but inside, I thought, "This is easy." I opened the clock quickly. I looked inside. There were many small parts, tiny gears, thin springs. I did not study them carefully. I did not look closely. I just wanted to finish. I worked fast. My hands moved quickly. I fixed what I thought was wrong. Then I closed the clock and gave it back to him. He did not say anything at first. He just turned the clock in his hands. Then he placed it on the table. Tick, tick, tick. It worked. I smiled. I felt proud. I felt strong. But after a few seconds, the ticking stopped. The clock went silent. My smile disappeared. Alaric looked at me. His face did not change. He was calm. Always calm. He opened the clock again, slowly. He pointed at a small gear. "This," he said softly, "is not sitting right." I looked closer. It was true. I had missed it. It was small, very small, but it mattered. I felt embarrassed. I felt small. "I can fix it," I said quickly. He nodded. "Yes, but not fast. Slow." I tried again. This time I worked slower. Not very slow, but slower than before. I fixed the gear. I closed the clock. Tick, tick, tick. It worked again. I waited. This time, it did not stop. I smiled again. But this smile felt different. It was softer. Days passed, then weeks. I kept working. I kept learning. But I still rushed. I could not help it. It was my nature. I wanted to finish quickly. I wanted to move to the next task. Alaric often watched me. Sometimes he said nothing. Sometimes he said, "Slow down." Only those two words, "slow down." I heard them many times. Too many times. One cold morning, a woman came into the shop. She wore a long coat and dark gloves. Her name was Leora Dane. She spoke politely, but her voice was firm. "I want a special clock," she said. "Something unique, something beautiful." Alaric listened carefully. He asked questions. He wrote notes. He took his time. After she left, he sat quietly for a long time. Then he looked at me. "This will be my last big work," he said. I was surprised. "Last?" I asked. He nodded. "I am old, Soren. My hands are still steady, but not forever." I felt something strange in my chest. I felt worried. I felt sad. "But I will help you," he added. My heart beat faster. "Help Help me. This was important work. Very important. This clock must be perfect, he said. Every part matters. I nodded quickly. I understand. But truthfully, I did not fully understand. The work began the next day. We chose fine wood, dark and smooth. We shaped it carefully. We designed the face of the clock with thin golden lines. It was beautiful. Truly beautiful. I loved working on it. I felt excited every day. But there were many small parts inside the clock. Very small. Very delicate. They needed care. They needed time. Sometimes Alaric would stop and check each piece. He would hold it close to his eyes. He would turn it slowly. He would listen. I watched him, but I did not always follow him. When he was not looking, I worked faster. I skipped small steps. I told myself, it is fine. It will work. I wanted to impress him. I wanted to finish early. I wanted to show that I was ready. Days turned into weeks. The clock started to take shape. It looked perfect from the outside, clean, elegant, strong. People who passed by the shop window stopped and looked. They smiled. They pointed. This will be your best work, I told Alaric. He did not answer right away. He just looked at the clock, then at me. Work is not only what we see, he said quietly. I nodded again, but inside, I felt confident. Too confident. One evening, when the sky was dark and the shop was quiet, I stayed alone. I wanted to finish the final parts. My hands moved quickly, too quickly. I felt excited. I felt proud. I felt sure. I closed the clock and stepped back. It looked perfect. I smiled. I did not know then that something inside was wrong. That night, I could not sleep well. I lay in my bed and looked at the ceiling. My body felt tired, but my mind was busy. I kept thinking about the clock. I kept seeing it in my head. The smooth wood, the golden lines, the clean shape. I smiled in the dark. I did it, I thought. I finished it. But then a small voice inside me spoke. It was quiet, very quiet. Did you check everything? I turned on my side. I closed my eyes. Yes, I whispered to myself. It is fine. But I did not feel calm. I felt something else. I felt unsure. I felt a little afraid. Still, I told myself to sleep. The next morning, I went to the shop early. The air was cold. My hands felt stiff. When I opened the door, the sound of ticking clocks filled the space again. Tick, tick, tick. It was a normal sound, a peaceful sound. But that day, it made me feel nervous. Alaric was already there. He stood near the table, looking at the special clock. His face was quiet. His eyes were focused. Good morning, I said. He nodded. Good morning, Soren. I walked closer. My heart started beating faster. I looked at the clock. It still looked perfect. Shall we test it? I asked. He looked at me for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Yes, we test it. He did not touch it right away. He cleaned his hands first, slowly, carefully. Then he picked up the clock and placed it gently on the table. Listen, he said. I leaned in. Tick, tick, tick. The sound was clear, strong, steady. I felt relief. I smiled again. It works, I said quickly. Alaric did not answer. He kept listening. We stood there for a long time. The clock kept ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Everything seemed fine. Then, after a while, the sound changed. It became slower. Tick, tick, tick. My smile faded. No, I whispered. Then it stopped. Silence. The room felt heavy. Too heavy. I looked at Alaric. He was still calm. Always calm. I don't understand, I said. My voice was shaking. He did not speak. He just opened the clock, slowly, very slowly. He removed each piece, one by one. He placed them carefully on the table. His hands did not shake, not even a little. I watched him. I could not move. I felt frozen. After some time, he pointed at a thin spring inside. "This is too tight," he said. Then he pointed at a small gear. "This is not aligned." Then another piece. "This is weak." Each word felt heavy. Each word hurt. I looked at the pieces. They were small. So small. But now I understood. They were not small. They were important. Very important. I thought it was fine," I said softly. Alaric looked at me. Not angry, not disappointed. Just calm. "You thought fast," he said. I looked down. I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed. I felt angry at myself. "I wanted to finish," I said. "Yes," he replied. "You wanted to finish, not to understand." His words stayed in the air. I could not speak. After a moment, he began fixing the clock. Slowly, carefully, like always. He adjusted the spring. He cleaned the gear. He checked every part. I watched him for hours. I did not move. I did not speak. Time passed. Finally, he closed the clock again and placed it on the table. "Listen," he said. I leaned closer again. Tick, tick, tick. The sound was steady, smooth, alive. We waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. The clock kept ticking. It did not stop. I felt something in my chest. It was heavy, but also warm. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. Alaric looked at me. "Do not say sorry to me," he said. "Say sorry to your work." I did not fully understand, but I felt his meaning. He picked up the clock and handed it to me. "Now," he said, "you open it again." I was surprised. "Again?" He nodded. "Yes. Again." "But it's working now," I said. "Yes," he replied, "because I fixed it." His eyes met mine. "But you must understand it." My hands felt cold as I took the clock. I was nervous, very nervous. I did not want to make another mistake, but I opened it, slowly. This time, I looked at every part. I really looked. I studied each piece. I touched them gently. I saw the spring. I saw the gears. I saw how they moved together. I began to understand. I worked carefully, slowly, very slowly. My hands moved with care. My eyes stayed focused. I forgot about time. I forgot about speed. I only thought about the clock. Hours passed. The light outside changed. Morning became afternoon. Afternoon became evening. But I did not stop. I felt calm. I felt quiet inside. For the first time, I was not rushing. For the first time, I was learning. When I finally closed the clock again, I placed it on the table. "Listen," I said softly. Alaric stepped closer. Tick, tick, tick. The sound was strong, clear, steady. We waited. It did not stop. I let out a deep breath. I felt something new inside me, not pride, something deeper, something calmer. Alaric gave a small nod. "Better," he said, just one word. But it meant a lot to me. That night, as I walked home, the air felt different. The streets looked the same, but I felt different. I thought about the clock. I thought about my mistakes. I understood something simple. I had been running, always running. But some things cannot be rushed. Some things need time. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to slow down. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The sky was still dark, and the air felt cold on my face. I walked slowly to the shop. My steps were quiet. My mind was quiet too. I was not thinking about finishing fast anymore. I was thinking about doing things right. When I opened the door, the ticking sound welcomed me again. Tick, tick, tick. This time, the sound felt different. It did not make me nervous. It made me calm. I stood there for a moment and just listened. "I am here," I whispered to myself. "I am ready." Alaric came in a few minutes later. He looked at me, then at the clock on the table. "You came early," he said. I nodded. Yes. I wanted to look again. He did not smile, but his eyes softened a little. Good, he said. That day, we prepared to deliver the clock to Leora Dine. It was her special order. It had to be perfect. It had to be strong. It had to be true. Before we left, Alaric asked me one simple question. Do you trust your work? I paused. Before, I would have said yes, very quickly. Too quickly. But now, I thought carefully. I remembered the loose gear, the tight spring, the silent moment when the clock stopped. I took a breath. Yes, I said slowly. I trust it, because I checked it. Alaric gave a small nod. That is different, he said. We wrapped the clock in soft cloth and placed it inside a wooden box. I carried it with both hands. I walked slowly, very slowly. I did not want to drop it. I did not want to rush. The streets were busy that morning. People were talking. People were moving fast. But I did not feel like them anymore. I felt steady. I felt focused. We arrived at Leora's house. It was large and elegant, with tall windows and a quiet garden. She opened the door and greeted us politely. You are here, she said. Yes, Alaric replied. We went inside. The house smelled like fresh flowers. Everything looked clean and perfect. I placed the box on the table. My hands felt a little shaky. Leora watched closely. May I see it? She asked. Alaric nodded. Of course. I opened the box slowly. I removed the cloth carefully. Then I lifted the clock and placed it on the table. The light from the window touched the wood. It looked beautiful. The golden lines shined softly. Leora stepped closer. Her eyes widened. It is beautiful, she said quietly. I felt a small warmth in my chest. Alaric did not speak. He just looked at the clock. Let us see it work, Leora said. My heart started beating faster again. Alaric looked at me. This is your moment, he said. I swallowed. Then I nodded. I gently set the clock in place. I adjusted the hands. Then I stepped back. Listen, I said. Tick, tick, tick. The sound filled the room. It was clear. It was steady. We all stood in silence. 1 minute passed, then another. The clock kept ticking. It did not slow down. It did not stop. Leora smiled. It is perfect, she said. I felt something rise inside me. It was strong but quiet. Not loud pride, not fast excitement. A calm feeling, a true feeling. I am glad, I said softly. Alaric looked at me. There was something new in his eyes, something warm. We left the house after that. The sky was bright now. The day felt light. As we walked back, I spoke. I understand now, I said. Alaric looked at me. Understand what? I took a breath. The small parts. They are not small, I said. They are everything. He nodded. Yes. I continued walking. I thought speed was skill, I said. But it is not. No, he replied. Speed comes later. First comes care. I repeated his words in my head. First comes care. That afternoon, I worked on a new clock. A simple one, not special, not expensive. But I treated it like the most important clock in the world. I opened it slowly. I studied each part. I cleaned every piece. I did not rush. I did not skip. I felt calm. I felt focused. Time passed, but I did not feel it. When I finished, I tested the clock. Tick, tick, tick. It worked perfectly. I smiled. Days turned into weeks again. But now, everything felt different. I moved slower. I thought deeper. I listened more. Sometimes I still felt the old habit inside me, the urge to rush, the desire to finish quickly. But I stopped myself. I took a breath. I slowed down. One evening, as the sun was setting, Alaric called me. Soren, he said. I walked to him. Yes? He looked around the shop, at the clocks, at the tools, at the wooden tables. This place, he said, will be yours one day. I felt surprised. Mine? I asked. He nodded. You are ready to learn, not just to work. His words stayed with me. I looked at my hands. They were still young, but they felt different now, stronger, steadier. I will try my best, I said. Alaric shook his head gently. Do not try fast, he said. Do it right. I smiled a little. I understand, I said. That night, I stayed longer in the shop. Alone. The ticking sound filled the room again. Tick, tick, tick. I sat down and closed my eyes. I listened. Each clock had its own rhythm. Each sound was clear. Each moment was steady. I felt peaceful. For the first time in my life, I was not chasing time. I was working with it, and I knew. I was changing. Years passed after that day. Not quickly, not slowly, just naturally. I stayed in the shop with Alaric. Every day, I learned something new. Not big things, not loud things, small things, quiet things. How to hold a gear without shaking, how to listen to a weak tick, how to feel when something is not right. At first, I still made mistakes, small mistakes, sometimes bigger ones, but I did not hide them anymore. I did not rush to finish. I stopped. I looked. I fixed. I learned to be patient. I learned to be careful. I learned to respect the work. Alaric grew older. I could see it in his hands. They were still steady, but slower. His steps were softer. His voice was quieter. One evening, he sat down near the window and watched me work. You have changed, he said. I looked up. Yes, I replied. I feel different. He nodded. That is good, he said. I continued working on the clock in front of me. It was not special, just a simple wall clock, but I treated it with care, like always. Tick, tick, tick. The sound filled the room. Alaric closed his eyes and listened. That sound, he said softly. It tells the truth. I looked at him. The truth? I asked. He opened his eyes. Yes, a clock never lies. If something is wrong, it will show. Maybe not now, but later. I remembered my first big mistake. The silent moment. The stopped clock. I nodded slowly. I know, I said. A few weeks later, Alaric told me something I was not ready to hear. I will stop working soon, he said. My hands froze. Stop? I asked quietly. He nodded. My time is changing, he said. I need rest. I felt a heavy feeling in my chest. I did not want him to leave the shop. I did not want things to change. But I understood. Time moves. Always. I will take care of the shop, I said. He looked at me. Yes, he said. You will. On his last day, the shop felt very quiet. Even the ticking sounded softer. Tick, tick, tick. We stood together in the center of the room. The same room where I once rushed. The same room where I once failed. Alaric handed me his tools. The same tools he used every day. Now they are yours, he said. My hands felt heavy as I took them. I will remember everything, I said. He shook his head gently. Do not remember, he said. Understand. I held the tools close. I will, I whispered. He walked to the door slowly. Before leaving, he turned back. One more thing, he said. I waited. Do not teach speed, he said. Teach care. Then he left. The door closed softly. I stood there alone. Tick, tick, tick. The sound filled the empty space. I took a deep breath. This is my shop now, I said quietly. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. I became the clockmaker. People came to the shop again. Old people, young people. Some needed repairs. Some wanted new clocks. I welcomed them all. I worked every day, slowly, carefully. Sometimes I saw a young face at the door. Curious eyes, fast hands. One day, a young girl came in. Her name was Tamsin Hale. She looked around the shop with wide eyes. "So many clocks," she said. I smiled a little. "Yes," I said, "many clocks." "I want to learn," she said quickly. I looked at her. I saw myself in her. The same energy, the same impatience. "Why?" I asked. She smiled. "I want to be fast," she said. I paused. Then I said softly, "Sit down." She sat. I placed a small broken clock in front of her. "Fix it," I said. She started quickly. Her hands moved fast, just like mine did before. I watched her. After a few minutes, she closed the clock. "It's done," she said proudly. I nodded. "Listen," I said. "Tick, tick, tick." Then silence. She looked confused. "I don't understand," she said. I opened the clock slowly. I pointed at a small piece. "This matters," I said. She looked closely. "It's so small," she said. I smiled softly. "Yes," I said. "But it is everything." She looked at me. I remembered Alaric's voice. "Do not teach speed, teach care." I handed the clock back to her. "Try again," I said. She took a deep breath. This time her hands moved slower. I watched quietly, and in that moment, I understood something very clearly. The lesson did not end with me. It continued. Like time, always moving, always teaching. That night, after she left, I sat alone in the shop. Tick, tick, tick. The sound was steady, calm, true. I closed my eyes. I felt grateful. I felt peaceful. I remembered my first day, my fast hands, my mistakes, and I smiled. Because now I understood. True skill does not come from speed. It comes from patience, care, and attention to small details. When we rush, we miss what matters. But when we slow down, we build something strong, something real, something that lasts.